So Thorin, you are in Skjalvik, and you're watching over the town. It's been pretty uneventful for the past 2 days since the Jarl and his men left. It's quiet because the majority of the people are here, and that means that the majority of the warriors are here, which means that most people are on their best behavior. And it's been pretty boring. It's not really your usual way of doing things, is like sitting around and watching over people. Greta is coming along healing-wise. And there's been no trouble since it was dealt with in the woman's inn. Fenya is working there now. While Noki's away, and things have been quiet. But about 2 days in, there's a little man who makes his way into the town. He's brought to you by guards. He's big, very tall, and sort of gaunt, and has a salt and pepper beard, shaved head with tattoos all across his scalp and the side of his head. And he has a bear pelt around his shoulders. He's got an axe on each hip and a shield across his back. Thorin, this man wanted to speak with Skjalmod. Thought we'd bring him to you.
What is your name, traveler?
You are not Skjalmod. Who are you?
I am Thorin.
Scratches his head, cracks his neck. Am I supposed to know who that is?
I am who you speak to. That is enough.
Where is your Jarl?
She kind of gauges the man, looks him up and down. He is not here. You may speak to me.
He sucks at his teeth. The oath I swore was to tell this to your Skjalmod, not to you, Thorin. Whoever you are. He is not here, I can see that. Will you get him?
I cannot. Who did you swear an oath to?
My Jarl, to deliver a message. We don't have he clicks his fingers he's trying to think of it. Scribes.
Scribes. Who is your Jarl?
Ranek Wolftooth.
Kind of furrows a brow. It is not a name I know.
You will know it soon. If your Jarl is not here, I will tell you and you will tell him. I'll have your oath first.
I swear that I will give whatever message you have to Jarl Skjalmod.
He nods, satisfied. Very well. It is simple. My Jarl says that your Jarl is new here to this part of the world. That they are similar in this. That there is opportunity there. That more ships will arrive from the Painted Cliffs. That a wise man may start to think about who his friends are. May start to think about who his enemies are. May see that there's much to be gained, much to be lost. May want to think about what side he wants to be on when the wolves come knocking at the door.
The Painted Cliffs.
That's what I said.
You are a Skolfen.
I am. You are unaware. Ranek, my Jarl, is conquered. He just points vaguely eastwards. And settled. It's his Jarldom now.
Little news reaches us here. Little enough.
No, it's a miserable trek.
You can see Thorin. She is not subtle in the emotions that play across her face. But she finally settles on something resembling calm. While my Jarl is not here, it is my place to offer you hospitality, as you are a messenger.
I'll gladly accept.
And she'll have someone bring the bread and salt, and although it sets her on edge, and she does not truly wish to share a meal or a hall with an Iskolfin, she believes it's what Skjalmod would do, and she cannot dishonor him.
And what you know of the Iskolfin is that they honor old traditions, and you think that if this guy like accepts your guest rights, that he won't cause any trouble. It would be important to him to like maintain that because it's like religiously important to him, or to most of them.
That's probably the only thing that keeps her from setting a guard on him. A guard on him. There's always to be someone watching.
I've delivered my message. Do you want me to bring anything back?
How far is it to where Jarl Ranik is?
Long fucking way. I walked through the swamp. I walked through southern names for castles. The Bald Man, the Bald Jarl. His Jarldom got on a ship and they sailed maybe a day.
You have indeed come a long way.
It's important to my Jarl that Skjalmod and he have a discussion.
Would you wait here for Skjalmod to return?
He like looks around. How long will he be?
I cannot say. I do not know.
I don't mean any offense, but this place reeks. It's cold air I like, and the splash of sea. Not this. I'll wait if I have to, but if it's longer than a week, I'll have to go.
Stay a fortnight. It is a long journey. And it would be long for one of our messengers to send word to your Jarl.
He like raises an eyebrow and thinks about it. Yeah. I'll stay a week and then I'll see.
Very well. You are our guest here.
He'll nod and then like excuse himself, make his way back outside, and head straight for the tavern.
And Thorin will give a word to one or two men to keep an eye on him. Someone that's older, perhaps one of the men who came with her, who's not going to lose his head, to just keep an eye on him and make sure that no one from either side makes any trouble.
Huggan, who's like the one of the older guys who came with you from Gunland, will like nod and just like stay close to him, not like on him, not like hassling him, but just keep him in view at all times. There's also a message arrives not long afterwards from Skjalmod. Halvar has returned along with Magni, who's been sent, and they'll basically tell you that he wants you to make your way up to Haedborg. That there's a mission to be undertaken, a journey into the mountains, into the barrows there, and that he wants you there ASAP.
And who am I to leave here?
Skander and me.
Very well. Is it a far journey?
He like thinks about it for what seems like a very long time, and then he just like nods. It's not short.
Nothing in this swamp is. Well, welcome home. Iris Hall is open.
Yeah, he smiles at that, and he'll like cuff Halvar at the side of the head and like get him to follow him towards Iris Hall. So we'll skip a little bit of time up in Haedborg. Things are pretty pleasant, and like the days are passed with like nice activities. You go hunting one day with the Jarl. You lots of training in the training fields, and sort of tactics are shared and things like that. Discussions are had, and overall, it's like pretty peaceful, and there's no altercations, no hassle, anything like that. Yeah. So, is there anything you guys who are in Haedborg want to do while you're there? Now's a chance because we will be going for quite some time into the mountains.
I just wanted to use the time to speak with the Jarl when I can, without like inconveniencing him too much, to find out the lay of Asblot politically, like who rules it, like what's the power structure, and where does he sit within that.
Yeah, sure.
Just so I'm aware of it, we don't have to like extol the whole like political landscape to me, but
yeah,
like he'd want to be aware of it, like going forward, making plans with this man, like what portion of power does he wield in Asbloth? Like what's left of Asblot after the war with Koenig Castellan, and now a new war with this Iskolfin?
Yeah, so he would tell you that like it's too big to be unified. It's massive. It stretches from here like hundreds of miles north, thousands of miles even north, until you get to the White Line where Iskolfin sort of starts. And so like the people of the north of Osbloth are like so different to the people in the south that it doesn't even really feel like one place. But in this sort of region, he would say that Jarl Flokison is like one of the richest, if not the most powerful, and like well known. He himself would have been quite powerful, but then there was like several wars, and has fallen on hard times, so to speak. Beyond that, like he only really knows or cares, I suppose, about those Jarls who are like bordering him or bordering them, and he would like tell you what he knows about them, which isn't much. But there's no like real obvious leader in this area, or like the most powerful or whatever, because where he is quite close to the king. And that was recently demonstrated that the king's power is pretty significant. Like most of the people in this sort of coastal region are like pretty cowed by the king's power.
Yeah. I contemplate the idea of like getting him to like forsake Asbloth and join Koenig Castellan, pointing out that if like I wed his daughter, then that's kind of what's going to happen down the track anyway. But if he does it now, it kind of in a way gives him protection from the Iskolfin, in that if they attack him, they attack Koenig Castellan, which means they're at war with Asbloth and the king. I don't know, like from what I've met of Godrickson, I don't think he'd go for it, but I feel like Skjalmod would mention it.
Yeah, I think he would like scratch his beard at it and say that it's like a hard thing to put away. Generations of being from a place, centuries even of being from a place. I know nothing will change, not really. And he kind of scratches his beard again and thinks about it, but there is a change. There's a change in the way that I think of myself and the way that my people think of me also. But it might be the only choice we have.
Think on it while I'm away.
I will.
One of my riders returned with Thorin, a stout shield maiden. With her with us, we'll set off to the Barrow Hills as I'd pledged.
Yes, I've arranged a man to take you. He says something to a servant who runs out, and then we'll run back with this tall, sort of gaunt man, with a short black beard and bald. He looks between the Jarl and you. He's got sharp eyes, and he'll nod. Lords, Skjalmod, I'm Rogvar. I'm to take you to the Corpse Hill.
Well met. My thanks. We're ready to leave, and I'd like to just tell him what we've got, what gear, what horses, and if there's anything else he thinks we should take. Try and get it off Godrickson and set off underway immediately.
Yeah, he would have done his own sort of preparations, things like tents and horses and things like that. Yeah, you'd be ready in no time, and you can set off your group. Excuse me. Set off at the front gate that you had gone up that winding path. You can go down. Thorin barely getting a minute to settle in before the leaving begins. Rogvar would tell you that he's worried about the Isgulfin hassling you along the way. The quickest way to the Icy Peaks, Lord, is to follow the river north, across the White Ford. There's a bridge there. It's probably the safest place, and we can stop at Viterford and rest in the hall, at least before we make our rest of our journey. On the other side of the river, I don't know. I don't go often, Lord. I know that beyond that river on the other side, there's a small jarldom that we'll be crossing. But luckily, it's away from the Isgulfin, not towards them. But I suppose in a more general sense, Lord, going north is going towards all the Isgulfin. Hey?
Indeed. I have no fear of traveling through other people's lands. You can meet with them and learn more of Asplot and these grim tidings as we go, and use our words and pleasantries rather than guile and force to reach the peaks.
He nods at that, though it seems like that's not his usual MO. He'll nod. And you can begin your journey out and north. You follow the river that you can see on the sort of far side of the swamps when you come out of them and head towards Floki's lands. This river obviously goes all the way up to the mountains, and you can follow it on your left. And Rogvar will say that I've been before, Lord, to the barrows. When I were a boy, Lord, my father took me and my brothers, and we looked at the old tombs there, and now I go once a year, at least, to my father's barrow, and also to the other barrows. He used to leave offerings there for the dead and keep the weeds from growing and tend to the carvings, and I suppose I do that now, Lord.
An honourable task.
It's hard. It's a long way, and it's high in the mountains, and it's dangerous. If I'm honest, there's quite a bit of hassle, usually. There's all sorts of bandits and outlaws that live on the other side of the river, at the foot of the mountains. I usually just pay them the toll, and they let me through. So I would say that's what we should do. But that's obviously your decision, Lord. Once you get up in the mountains, though, you see these strange things. They say there's thunder wolves up there. I've never seen one, but my father said that his father had seen one once, and he wasn't no liar, Lord.
I would believe that. I'll say grimly. We'll make sure we're on the lookout for them. Tell me of this toll the river bandits charge. And what is the price?
Well, usually what I do is I go and find them, because if they find you, well, if they find me, then they beat me and they take my money. But if I go and find them, I can pay them, and then they don't beat me, Lord.
Thorin, Thorin, do you think we should go and seek out these men?
No.
There's a great many of them.
Noki, what do you say?
If they have the superior numbers, it might be better to just pay them. But if they know you're worth something, they might ask for a lot. That's what we would have done. I doubt they'll try and kill us because they can milk us later on.
A Jarl
And
cannot seek out bandits and offer them tribute.
I agree, I'll say, lying.
Rugvar looks uncomfortable and nervous at the prospect, but he won't say anything. The journey will go on for most of a day, and it's fine going. It's very hilly around here, and so it feels like you're making slow progress. You're like going up and then down and then up and then down, and so despite the fact that you've like walked or like ridden a long way, you haven't gotten very far. And like by the time evening comes, you can still see Haedborg in the distance behind you, because of how hilly this country is. When you like crest a hill, you can see, if you look to your right, to the east, you can see like another river that splits, and that's where the border is to Ranek's lands. And there are villages like dotted around in the valleys and things in that direction. And as you're kind of riding, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, are their villages subject to Ranek's? To Ranek?
No, so everything on this side of that river. So if you imagine this Jarl's lands is split, he's basically in the middle of two rivers. And so those villages I talked about, they're still on his side of the river.
Cool.
But they're quite far away from the castle, and obviously in like a dangerous sort of position. Rugvar would say, as if he's been thinking about it for a very, very long time before he like finally plucks up the courage to say it. There's other things too up in the mountains, Lord. There's well, my father said that his father said that there was these great eagles that will carry off mountain goats. And they say that there's worms that dwell in the caverns and the peaks. I haven't seen one myself, but my father's father said it, and he wasn't a liar.
And they wouldn't have bothered to pass down the wisdom if it weren't for something. Keep your eyes peeled, and thank you for the lore that you know of this place.
He'll nod. So you go for most of the day, and you can make camp by like a copse of trees. Bring out the tents and things like that. Rugvar would say or suggest a cold camp. The weather isn't too bad, and he's worried that the fire may draw attention from like any Skulfin who have like crossed the border and like have been harrying on this side of the river.
Yeah, if he thinks that's what we should do, he would know better. So a cold camp it is.
Thorin would pull Skjalmod off to the side as everyone's setting things up. Jarl.
What is it, Thorin?
There was a messenger for you.
His face grows dark, like a storm in the distance, and he goes to say Flokison questioningly.
She preempts you. It was not him. It was from the Skulfin, Ranek Wolfstooth.
He rubs his hands together, like looking down at the gloves, and goes to like begin taking one off. What did they ask?
He wishes to speak with you.
In person, that I would go to him?
So it seems. He certainly did not come to you.
That's good. This messenger, you gave them hospitality?
If Thorn was someone who blushed, she would have blushed then, because Skjalmod knows her well, knows her tendencies. I did. He'll stay a week. If you are back then, he will speak to you and you can send a message back with him.
His face will grow a little troubled at that, thinking that perhaps a week is too long, but now's not the place to like say things like that. So he's like, that was good. Hopefully we can be back in time, though I doubt it. This trip will take days, and then the journey back, and then further south to the fens. I fear we would have lost him by a few days. But I intend to speak to this Rennick anyway. So in a way, it is good. And better that he comes to speak rather than indiscriminately destroying one of our villages, as is done to the folk of Asblo. And that he didn't come himself. I wonder at that. Iskolfin captains and Reaver lords do not come to power if they are cowardly and without caution. That he would not come to the swamps. That may bode well for us too. Perhaps he, like so many others, fears the place.
His messenger certainly had no love of it.
Good. My thanks. You did the right thing. Though think on this. The man has a week to count the heads and face of every person and every weak wall, and eat as much food as he can bear.
I was not thinking like a Jarl. Forgive me.
No need. Come, help me get the fire roaring. Oh no, it's a cold camp. Come, help me soak the biscuits so at least we can swallow them.
Aye.
And so you can sleep in tents. It's warm enough. You don't need a fire here by the river. And you can hear it kind of like gurgling and splashing through the night. And you wake to like a crisp dawn, and you can make your way. Again, Rogvar is confident that by like late afternoon, you'll reach the village he was talking about, Fitr Fjord, which is White Fjord, which is also the ford that you'll cross. It's the only place that he knows of that there's a bridge across this river. And it's within the Jarl's lands, so there won't be any toll paid by you. And so you can kind of like begin your journey and ride as best you can. Again, through like hills, but then as you kind of like start to approach this area, you'll see that there's like pretty significant woodlands and forests and stuff that sort of separate you from the river. Can I get a perception check from one of you? Probably Noki, actually.
I was about to say, I think I would use Noki and Bjarni like outriders and like flanking scouts for our group and keep Rothgard near us, so probably Noki, I'd say.
Does not bode well. That's a 10.
Okay. Yeah, so you're like riding over these hills, and it's tough going, and there's like trees and stuff in the way, and like shrubs and whatnot, and so it's quite late when you see that there are 3 riders approaching from your east. Just 3, and then as you like spot them, you can like look behind them and see that there's a few more like at the top of the hill there behind them. They've come about halfway, and then they sit there, and as you're kind of like looking around, one of them will like do like a whistle, like a to get your attention, and then just kind of like shrug, like, what's going on? Are you coming over here or what?
I'll like signal them with my hand, like waving through the light of the dying sun, and then get Noki and Thorin to saddle up and ride out with me, and tell the rest of the camp to ready their armor and their horses in case anything should go ill.
Yeah, you can ride up and see that these are definitely a Skulfin. There's no question. You can tell by the way that they, almost all of them, bear like some sort of terrible wound on their face. One's this grim-faced man with black soot around his eyes. Another has this thick chain helm with faceplates that obscures most of his face. And the third has like fine, long blonde hair and this smile that's a little bit too sweet. Though he only has one eye and wears a patch. You are far from civilization, eh?
Yeah, we all are, it seems. Well met. I'm Skjalmod. You are?
Skjalmod. You're a warbringer, shield banger. Renek told me about you, to look out for you. Not to kill you. Lucky day for you, Skjalmod.
Indeed. I see you're well armed and know these lands and your mounts well. And I'll look past his shoulder to where I saw Noki like frowning, looking off. There are more of you beyond. Lucky indeed that Ranek was feeling benevolent towards me. I had word that a messenger was sent to Skjalvik, my hold. He is well there, a man by name of, and I'll kind of give that look to Thorin.
Ulrich.
And I intend to speak with Ranek if he is your lord.
Huh. He like sits in the saddle and like tongues one of his empty teeth. It puts me in an awkward position, Skjalmod, because we're supposed to steal from everyone we meet here. You understand, it's my job. And now we let you go by. It doesn't look good, I suppose. Oh, we can't hurt you. That's. And he's like really trying to figure out this puzzle that he is like trying to deal with, and just kind of like mumbling to himself before like the bigger man in the helmet just like grunts, "Let them go." He like looks a little embarrassed and like looks back to you. Well, it was nice to meet you. I suppose you can head along your way. Where are you going? So far north? You're going to cross the bridge?
We're for the mountains. We're seeking a barrow of a friend's ancestor to set right wrongs.
You see all three of the Esculfin like reach for their amulets and grab them at the same time. Shouldn't be messing with the dead, Skjalmod. It's no good. And they should rest.
I'll take your words to heart. What was this guy's name?
He didn't give it, but he will when asked. His name's Iller.
I have permission from the last ancestor of a line. A blade must be recovered as the line ends.
Huh. Okay.
I'm no grave robber, if that's your concern, I'll say to this fucking criminal. The height of it.
Yeah, he does seem concerned at the idea. Yeah, he'll fold his arms and look and nod, like satisfied that you're not stealing from the dead. Though stealing from the living seems to be no problem. Well, I'm glad to have met you. I'll be sure to tell Ranek of your noble quest to save an old sword.
Aye, and here, take this on good faith, and I'll reach into the pouch of like pilfered jewelry from the fen folk and hand like a handful between he and his men. Perhaps when I have finished upon my quest, I could return this way and seek you out, Illa, and you could take me by safe passage to Ranek, that I could speak to your master sooner than otherwise. What say you?
He frowns and like thinks about it. Though he can't, like he's trying to look like disinterested, but he's obviously pleased that you've given him wealth. I suppose we could do that. We'll meet you by the bridge.
And say you stole that. I'll point down to the necklaces and rings, and then nod to the other two men, like the faceless and the other, and turn the horse about to go.
Yeah, he'll like tap his nose, like that's our little secret, and then he'll go back to his men as well.
They might follow us, Noki. So tonight on watch, we'll take turns in doubling back just to be sure. If we must contend with them, let it be here before we're in the treacherous mountains.
We could have taken them, Lord.
They came forth to parley. It would not be lawful.
They thought to rob you.
They also thought to parley, and they didn't rob us. But you're wise to be concerned. Tell me, Thorin, what would you have done?
Mm. I do not know. I doubt they would have parleyed so well with me. I do not have your silver tongue.
No, but a better sword arm.
She kind of grins and goes, 'tis Thor's blessing.
Indeed. Don't worry, we may yet have to kill them.
There's a smile.
So you continue then along the woods by the river for the best part of the day. Until like that evening, you'll arrive at this little village. It's literally here because there's a bridge here, you can tell. There's a couple of farmsteads, and mostly it's like gatherers and like lumber and things like that. And yeah, there's very little in it. There's like an alderman's house where you can like make your way to, and you're welcomed warmly. And like the alderman there, who's just like also a lumber worker, is like totally overwhelmed that there's a jarl here. He doesn't know how to react really, and he's quite nervous. And so he just offers everything that he can offer, which isn't much. And you can sleep in the hall if you so wish. Or if you wanted to set guards and things like that, you can definitely do so.
We'll do both.
It's comfortable, and he gives you like the better room and all that sort of stuff, so you can live in as much luxury as is possible here in Futureford, which isn't much, but it's better than sleeping by a cold camp, and you can really get some good rest in. During the night, Nocky, you can keep your eyes peeled. There's no sign of the Esculfin. It seems like they might have gone back to where they came from. And when you like swap shifts, Skjalmod, there's nothing that you see either. Nothing untoward. No people like skulking. No one riding into the village. Anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and morning comes without incident, and you can cross the old stone bridge. Basically, the river widens at this point, but there's like sort of an island at the center, and the stone bridge has like two arches, one of which connects to that stone island in the middle. And you can cross it. It's like wide and fine, and obviously not built by the people who live here. It looks like it might be ancient. So not built, but maintained certainly by the people who live here. And once you cross, there's immediately a different feeling on the other side. Like it's not long before you enter into these woods that you can see stretch on for quite some distance until you get to the foothills of the mountain. And yep, it's doing it, Jax. Twice. That's so odd. Yeah, the foothills stretch up towards the mountains, and you can see that there's like a whole mountain range beyond. The woods are dark and old, and there's this sense of ancientness about them, and you can like ride with Rogvar leading the way. He's leading you the way that he was taught, and that's clear because you don't think it's the quickest way, but it looks like he has done this route many times, and he's taking like little tiny turns that really don't make a difference, but he's doing them because he's learned this route by rote, you think. And so he crosses a stream in a certain place. He like goes around a certain big tree, all these things that really don't seem necessary because you can see the mountains beyond, but he's taking a very specific route. He says to you, usually this is where I will go, and he like points sort of to your left, not far beyond there. They have a small building. Usually there's one or two of them there, and I go there and I pay to the bandits, Lord.
Good. You should do so again. It seems tradition pays here when taking this treacherous path.
He'll smile at that.
So take me to them.
Yes, Lord.
Jarl,
Or would you speak to them instead?
tis not sit well with me.
Me neither.
Grovel for bandits?
But to return from the barrow of Godricson's line, if we are like wounded or in peril, and then ambushed by these brigands for not paying them some paltry toll, and the blade is lost, is that not worse?
Surely they could not stand against us.
I'd have a measure of them before I put my hopes to that. I'll go to speak to them. If you do not wish it, guard the baggage.
She frowns. I will go with you.
Rugvar will lead you then. Again, like following a really specific path until you can see in the distance there's like this old, almost like a ruin of a house. It's got like a stone bottom floor, and then it looks like just like rushes and things, or not rushes, like branches and things that are making a roof. It's barely even a house. And sitting at the front of it, there's like a man with all these tattoos across the right side of his face. And he'll like see you approach and like raise an eyebrow, and as he like turns, you can see he's got a brand on his forehead, an upside down Algi's rune, marking him as an outlaw. He'll like stand and like pull one of the axes from the nearby table and like heft it over his shoulder. Rugvar, who are your friends? And Rugvar like will quickly say, it's the Jarl Skjalmod. And his shield maiden, Thorin.
And the Yaldaman of Edalega, I'll say, pointing Nocky to the man, so that he can see what can be of an outlaw.
You're like raising an eyebrow at that, like finding that hard to believe. Are you here to pay, Rugvar? And you, Jarl?
While he's saying this, I'm keening from like the saddle to side to just kind of get a gauge of how many men this rapscallion has under his command. And if I can't see them, like if they're hidden, like gauge by how many fires and tents there are.
So this is actually like, it looks like a separate like house. This is not their
like
camp.
A toll house, like a toll house.
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
So efficient.
Yeah, like it's not their camp. It's just like obviously there's this guy, and like as you're talking, another guy will come out. There's two of them, but like it looks like this is not their force at all. You know, it's not their camp or whatever.
And how are they dressed? Like, do they have armor and proper weapons?
Proper weapons, yes, but they're not wearing armor.
And are any of them fat, or are they just skinny?
Yeah, I mean they seem not starving. Like they're doing okay. They live in this like deep dark forest, and there's obviously food and things here, but they don't look fat or rich.
Who am I speaking with? I'll ask of the toll man.
He like thinks about telling you, like that might be dangerous, and then thinks better of it. Aslak.
Well met. I'm Skjalmod. Are you the leader of these tollmen? Or do you have a captain whom I might speak with?
Yeah, we have, and he like thinks about it, and he like seems to like the term captain. I suppose we have a captain, yes. He's in our camp, not here. You can talk to me.
I am in need of strong men who can live rough and are not shy of blood or violence. Can you speak for Aslak on this?
He like looks at the guy behind him like, what's happening? Like just he's like expecting you to pay him the money, and he's like not sure how to process this. Yeah, sure. What do you have in mind?
a rule of fens from Skjalvik, and I would have warriors to join my ranks, to join me in the feast halls, and to live amongst the people, for me to share my many thralls and lands with, in return for leal service.
The guy behind him like snorts like he can't believe what's happening, and Aslak will like turn to him and be like, "What?" And look back at you. I'll tell our captain of the. You know we're outlaws, Jarl.
What crime have you committed? I'll look about with that same faint expression I used at the Jotun Tower to Bjarni and those men.
What crime haven't I committed? And the other guy does like this, like, yeah, a lot. I've killed.
And oaths, what about them? You broken oaths as well as laws?
He looks uncomfortable, though he nods. I have.
We've all failed. Don't worry, Aslak. Take these words unto your captain and tell him to think on them. I should pass back this way in some days, God's willing. Tell me, I've inconvenienced you and your man here by taking up much of your time that could have been spent elsewise, hunting or the like. How might I recompense you?
He's like so confused by this interaction. It's not usually how it goes. So he like looks back at the man behind him, and he says, 3, 4. We charge 4 hack silver per person that walks by.
Oh, I'll like hold up like a 20 hack silver talk. Will this suffice?
He like looks at it, and then looks back at the guy again, and he like counts you, like those who are with you. Is it just the 3 of you here?
Rodka, myself, Noki, and Thorin.
Okay, yeah. He'll like do literally count on his fingers how many of you there are, and like he's obviously doing some sort of like mental mathematics, trying to figure it out. That will do. That will do.
Very good. Tell your captain there's more that where that came from. If he'll parley, and tell him, Aslak, you serve him well.
I'll do that.
Very good. Now, if you like, excuse us.
Best of luck. And he'll like take the torque and like show it to the guy next to him, and like the guy will like bite on it, and he's like, "Holy shit!" Like it's really silvery. And then you can like pass back to your people and walk through. Rugvar looks at you like, "Lord, they're criminals, outlaws."
That's right. And what do you think they'll do when Rennick's men come through here with flame and blade?
Oh, they'll come through here? Oh,
These
yeah.
lands. Men like this won't come to their lords and join their armies. They'll stay with the Reavers, the Ravagers. My hands are dirty for having dealt with them, but I would rather buy them than Rannick.
He looks at you like you're thinking 10 steps ahead, and he like looks impressed by it. Yeah.
I'm relying on him to watch the steps directly in front of us while I do that.
Yeah, he'll
I'll
like
say that
not impressed.
Louder than I need so that Thorin can hear as well, because I can feel her like burning holes through my chain helm.
Yeah, Thorin has had her arms crossed and fingers like drumming on the handle of her sword, at the haft of her axe, and she's not happy. But she won't say anything against you, certainly not in company.
I'll see the crossed arms and like the dour expression, and I think eventually I'll come to Thorin and say, I note that your displeasure at this, and I pray that I've not done the wrong thing. But if worse comes to worse and they think with more silver than that they can easily take, you get to kill each and every one of them soon enough.
It pains me to see you treat with criminals like such.
I'd rather pay them and gain their favor than have them rob us or have us lose half our men slaughtering them like we did in the fens.
Aye, but these were just 2.
Yeah, but in these hills, who can know how many more they are? 2 men would not be so bold to speak to us, come in steel on horses, if there were not more, I think.
Perhaps. Perhaps you're wise, Skjalmod. But I hope that you do not make so many concessions that you lose yourself.
The barber hits true there. Like, he's been thinking that same thing over the last months, I imagine, increasingly so, as he like compromises on compromises. But he'll like just nod. And I think Thorin and he have known each other long enough that she sees in his face, even though he has no words for it, that he accepts what she says and will heed the warning.
If she didn't know you so well, she would never say such things to another Jarl. But she knows Skjalmod and know he wouldn't strike her from her horse for such words.
You continue walking through the woods, riding through the woods, I should say, for the best part of the day until evening sets in, and you can see up ahead this like massive shape, like as if a cliff appeared out of nowhere. Like through the canopy, you can see it, and like Rogvar will see you all kind of like looking nervously, and he says, "Oh, it's a stone of Thrym," as if it's no big deal. But as you like ride by it, you can see it fully. The stone is like easily 200 feet tall. It's cracked and broken all over, and all around it there are these like massive shards of stone that have obviously fallen over the centuries and just like into the forest floor. You can see some of the trees have been like split in half by these like rocks that have fallen. It's the likeness of Thrym, who is the king of the Jotnar, the lord of ogres, he who stole Thor's hammer, who almost married Freya. The face that's carved on it is like really intricate, and it's of like a stern, horned man with like a long white beard, and around him there's all these like symbols and runes and things, although their meaning doesn't make sense to you. It's not the runes you use for writing. And there's like kind of a chill in the air as you like ride by this thing, and it's unusually quiet. Like all of the birds are kind of quiet around here, and it's so wide at the base that it takes you like several minutes to ride from one end to the other. You'll see that there's offerings left at the bottom of the stone in different places. Like some bowls with like food stuff left in them, or like even bits of silver and things like that that haven't been touched by the bandits, obviously. And yeah, just like offerings and devotions and things like that.
I'll throw some coins down to like clank into like the bowl or basin, like where the ritual offerings are placed.
I often rest here, Lord, when I travel. It's good shelter, this stone.
We'll do as you do, Rotgar. Your Jarl deemed you wise, and I trust him as a friend. The day is not too late, but nonetheless, we'll set camp here.
He'll nod and he'll bring you to like this spot at the back of the stone. There's like a piece that's been like maybe smashed away or something, but there's like an overhang basically of stone that creates a sort of almost like a cavern, though not quite as deep, where he'll like bring you to, and you can see that there's like other people who have obviously camped here previously. There's like a fire pit, stone fire pit, and you can like get in there and rest in the relative like safety and quiet as well, which is the weird thing about this place. because the forest is loud. You kind of tune it out, but there is a sort of constant sound to the forest, but it's not so loud here. And you can rest here. Again, you like set watches, I assume anyway, knowing that bandits are out there, but nothing harasses you during the night. It's just quiet, and you can like stare up at this stone. It's probably, like I said, about 200 feet tall, so you have to really walk quite a bit away from it to like look at it. But it's an amazing thing. There's no way men made this. It must have been made by the Jotun all those eons ago. But yeah, it's quiet, and there's nothing harasses you. No men come to sneak around your camp. No wolves even howl. And the next day, go ahead.
I was just going to, by the fireside, ask Rotgar to speak of Jarl Godricsson's son who perished in battle. Just to kind of familiarize myself more with him, but that was just a fluff moment. I'm happy to push on.
Godric was his name. Godric Einarsson. And his son would have been Einar Godricsson. That's the way it's always been. He's good man. I liked him. He's brave and big. Pious, I would say. Never spoke ill of the gods. Never broke an oath that I saw. I liked him.
The Norns often weave the skein of brave heroes short, that they can go to Valhalla in their prime to serve the greater battle to come. Einar is honoured. Thank you for your tale of him. And I'll remember well the braided name system of the Godricsons.
That's what our Gothi said as well, is that all the good warriors are taken young. And he says that sort of like before he thinks about it, seeing like a bunch of old warriors in the camp with him. And then like looks nervously. He was a good man. I liked him. And fortunately, he had no children. I don't know what's going to happen now.
Surely Godricsson's eldest daughter will become the Jarl here. Is it not the way in Asbloth as it is in Varley land?
Can be. A lot of the men want to follow a man. He says that like that's obvious. And we're not quite as far south as Valley Land. They have some customs there that I don't really understand. I think they have witches there, and they like them. He says as if he's like heard something fascinating about like Japan, you know.
Good to know. Or something to think about.
But if there's no heir, then it seems to make sense. I don't think. And he's like thinking now, and he's like tapping his finger against his chin. I don't think he has any brothers, the Jarl, or cousins, and I don't really know. It's not my place to know, Jarl. All I'll say is that Godric was a good man.
Was he born up into these hills to rest with his grandsire, or was his body not recovered from battle?
He was brought up. Yes, there's a tomb. I can show you. He says like enthusiastically, and then like remembers what he's talking about. I can show you.
That would please me. I would pay respects on behalf of his father. It would be the right thing. Only wish the wolf were here. He would know the right things to say and give. But we will try our best, Rotgar, on the morrow, or whenever we reach these barrows. And I'll like pull up my cloak around my shoulders more and like hug the warmth in, noticing that it's colder up here than when we crossed Whitefjord.
Yeah, he'll nod and do the same, and like stare into the fire a little bit, and pull out some of the rabbit that he had caught earlier, and like chew on it. Morning will come, and there's a light sort of rain, almost like a sleet that starts to fall. Though you're spared most of it underneath the canopy of the great many ancient trees. We travel for the morning and reach the edge of the woods and to the foothills of the mountains. And you can feel this like chill, this sudden absence of the trees. makes you feel very exposed. And you like follow this like winding path up the sort of shale and rock and dirt and shrubs here. And as you kind of like get to a point where you like come to the top of a certain hill, Rogvar will point into the distance. There's a peak. So that's our goal. Greyfjall, the Corpse Hill. That's where we entomb the dead. And we're not the only ones. There's a few different Jarldoms around here who use this place and have done for many, many years. But it looks far away.
I'll need you to guide us here, Rotgar, not only like on the trail, but also on the Aesir's path and how we should conduct ourselves here. In the fen, the bodies go down, not up. And forgive us in advance our missteps. It does not mean we do not wish to honour the customs of your kith.
He nods. It'll be some time before we come to the Sacred Mountain. There'll be a lot of riding and walking before then. And he'll like kick his horse forward. And it's only like a few hours before you find yourself up quite high on some like precarious walkways and things like that. The horses are fairly sure-footed, at least. But even so, it's no easy thing to ride a horse on a narrow trail. There's a steep fall on one side. And you do that quite a few times, and then like up these winding ways, and you like cross across like the saddle between two mountains, and spend like a full day climbing. And night falls, and you rest. Again, Rugvar knows a place where you can sleep, and he'll lead you to it. Sort of a cavern, barely big enough for all of you to like sit in and lie in, but it's just about big enough. Get a fire lit, and that night Rugvar will say, "It's hearsay, Lord, what I told you about the worms and the eagles and the wolves, but there is a thing that's real here, and it's the Ulf. Wolfmen. I don't know if you have met one. They're scary. There's a big mountain forest at the center of the mountain ranges. They all sort of drop down into this valley where there's a lake, and there in that forest, well, they say that the wolves live there."
One wolf is enough, I'll say. Be sure to pick us a pathway around the Ulf. No wish to offend their ilk. They cannot be reasoned with as other men can.
I've been lucky. I've never had to deal with them, but I can hear them howling sometimes when I'm up here.
And take us by the path that's seen you safe each time. It must not offend them, or else there would have been more biting than barking. I'll try and give him a reassuring smile at that, but I'm actually trying to seek reassurance for myself.
He nods, both of you taking reassurance from each other.
Perpetual reassurance machine.
Yeah. And you can sleep, again, keeping watch, but nothing harasses you. It seems you're in the middle of nowhere. And it really feels that way. Like you look out of the cavern during the night, and there's just nothing, just sleet and trees. Occasionally you'll like hear a distant howl, but other than that, it's quiet and calm. The moon is like fairly big in the sky, and so it's bright at least, so you can like keep your eyes out while you're watching, but nothing harasses you during the night. The next day you'll continue to ride, and it's getting now to a point where the horses are starting to struggle. They're no longer really able to like go up these like almost vertical sort of areas, and like the paths that you can find, or that Rugvar can find, become very difficult for the horses, and he would suggest that you leave them here.
And when he comes in the past, does he bring a horse, or does he walk all the time?
He walks.
I feel like the horses are in as much danger of being eaten by wolves down here as they are of falling and breaking their necks if we take them further. What about if we don't ride, Rotgar? Can the horses ascend if they don't have riders to compensate? Or is it too treacherous even for that?
he scratches his head and thinks about like the paths. He says it might be difficult in some places. The path gets very narrow and you have to press yourself against the side of the mountain. I don't know if the horses can do that. I think it might. I don't know. We could take them up as high as we can go. Wolves don't go that high, I don't think. They usually are in the woods. He says to himself, and then like thinks about it like, that sounds correct, and nods.
We'll take them up to the first narrow pass where they cannot go further, and then Bjarni and another man can stay and hold like a path protecting them, where one man is as good as 10 coming up the like the shelf or ridge where like we'll tether them.
He nods at that, and you can continue the climb. And it starts to be exhausting pretty quickly. Like there's pain in your feet, in your back, and in your calves and thighs as the day goes on. There's like a light snow that starts to fall, and as you like look up, you can see the peaks are covered in it. The peaks of every mountain that you can see. And as the day goes by, your breath is like ragged by the time that you stop for a camp at lunchtime. And your breath is like steaming before you, and you're covered in sweat from the march. It's at this stage that the horses are going to have to be left. You like find this like little plateau big enough for the horses to stand in, for like a man to guard the path. And you can like rest for an hour and like catch your breath and massage your aching muscles. And Rogvar will say, it'll only get harder, but we're nearly there. Another day at most. And he'll like point across, and you can see that like you're about to go down into like the saddle between two mountains, and there's like sort of woods and things there. That's like pretty usual. And then the other side is the corpse hill that you're going to. And you can see even from this distance, like it looks like thousands of windows. All these like little rectangles that have been carved into the mountain, where obviously like a body is entombed, and you can like see just vaguely that outline all over the mountain, and a spiraling path that seems to like go all the way around the mountain.
I'll gasp at like the great host, just like lying there in wait for Ragnarok, and wonder at how many generations upon generations of warrior kings and queens are stacked therein. And probably still, despite like how much pain and discomfort I'm in, can still like find some presence of mind to like take in the beauty and wonder on display for us.
By the ace. How many generations did you say are there?
Rogvar shrugs. I don't know. Well, my father's father used to come here to make sure the tombs were okay, and there must have been tombs then. But some of them are very old. I've seen some of them are very, very old. They use different runes. They don't even look the same as the ones that the Jarl uses.
It is a most remarkable custom, and I am not easily impressed.
He sort of beams at that, like, because he feels that this is his mountain and he like looks after it. Even though there's no way one man could like look after this mountain, it's enormous, and there are thousands of these things on it. He feels like his little bit gives it some ownership, and he'll like smile at the compliment. There's not a lot of wood for fires and things like that as you go higher. That you can see that beneath you there's this sort of valley that you're going to go through where there is some forest, and you've done that more than once. But it's been over a day, and you can't be carrying that much stuff with you now that the horses are behind you. So there is a sort of chill that comes into your bones. But after you've like rested for a while, like an hour or so, to like try and regain your breath and feel a little better about yourselves, Rogvar will lead you down. there's like near vertical sort of hill, and you have to do that sort of very careful walk, try and make sure that the like shale and gravel beneath you like doesn't skitter loose and you fall hundreds of feet. But you'll eventually enter into this like wood, this forest, and Rugvar immediately goes and starts like finding branches and things, and like wanders off a little bit and picks up branches and starts to like hack them to make firewood and things like that. And he would suggest that you all do the same thing. Gather up as much as you can, because once you get onto the corpse hill, there's no trees.
Yeah, I'll chop wood as he says, and then make and rope it up with like grasses or rope and onto my back and carry as much as I can safely.
Naki, as you're like off doing the same thing, you're like chopping some of these branches that you've gathered to like bundle them up. You like look up and there's like a man sitting on a nearby stone. He's like squatting and has his like two hands between his feet. He's like filthy. He's got like these long dreadlocks and a beard, and he wears a pelt. He's just like looking at you, sort of confused as to what you're doing. Like he's never seen anything like you before. He's just got like his like looking around, confused. Now I say man, he looks like a young man, just like a young man who's never cut his hair or beard.
Sees the man as he's actually picking up the wood, so he kind of freezes. And there's this long, drawn-out moment as they look towards one another. Before Noki rights himself, he's not going to make a move. He's just going to stand there.
Yeah, he like leans forward. Rotan? Like says some word, it's meaningless to you.
Yeah, and Noki will give him that blank expression of non-comprehension. But his eyes will dart around a little bit just to see if there's anyone else out beyond.
Make me a perception.
Natural one.
Nope. Rotan. Durum. Rotan. And he like looks down for a second, looks back up, like he's worried that you're going to move. But when you don't seem to, he like looks back down, and like reaches into this like pouch that he has and pulls out some meat. And he like throws it towards you and onto the ground.
His eyes will follow the meat where it lands and look back up. But he'll reach down and pick it up and he'll hold it in his hand. His brows furrowed. He's not sure what to do with this.
He like smiles that you're like understanding, and you can see that he has like brown teeth that like they've been filed into points. And he's like nodding, and he says "Durum, durum," and he like makes this like gesture, like "Eat, eat." You get the distinct impression that for him, this is like finding an animal in the woods and having it like respond to you and like not run away, because that's how he's like acting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how much Noki would know of the elf, or
it's pretty specific knowledge, so I don't know how much you know yourself, because like no one really interacts with them. Like the wolf in Skjalvik is like by far one of the most civilized ones. You know, like most of them like literally live in the middle of nowhere, don't speak any other language except their own, eat raw meat, You know, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think this would be odd enough, and given Noki's, I mean, we'll say cowardice for lack of a better word. He'll lift the meat to his mouth, and he will nibble on some of the fat around the edges, just a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of like jerky. You know, it's been dried, so it's not terrible. It's not delicious either. You know, it's like unspiced. There's nothing to it. And he like watches and like nods enthusiastically, and then he like reaches into his pack and he takes them and he eats it too. And he like looks at you. Rotan durum. And then he like stands up and like takes a step towards you. But then it's like nervous of that.
Yeah, Noki tenses when he does that, and he's forcefully trying to stop himself from stepping back. But I think he would recognise something predatorial in this man, and that to do so would probably spark something. So he'll stand his grounds. In fact, he'll even lift the meat again and give his trademark sly grin and take another nibble.
Yeah, he'll nod enthusiastically as you do so, and he'll take his and bite it as well, and like chew, and he'll like show you that he's chewing, like open his mouth and be like, and then his eyes will like suddenly change, and you can hear behind you this like, oh, and you can see that there's a man who's made that noise, and he's much bigger than this boy. And we're going to take a quick break there to go for a cigarette. We'll be back in 5.
Checks that kid wants to keep you as a pet. I'm convinced of it.
I don't think the other one's going to let him. I think I think I'm for dinner.
Yeah, it's like, oh, look at this deer. Can we keep it? No, we're going to eat it. What's wrong with you?
I am back. Okay, so I think Nico's still away, but he's going to be away anyway. So you hear this big voice, this woof, but it's obviously a man making the noise. You can turn to see like a big man, but still thin and wiry. I suppose is a better word than thin because he's definitely got muscles. He's basically naked except for this like wolf pelt. He's like covered in dirt, but looks deliberate, like it's been applied, sort of black dirt and muck over most of his skin. And he like stands very close to you. He turns to the other, to the boy, or the young man, and like says something to him in their language, and the boy responds, saying that thing again, "Durum, durum." And he like looks between the boy and you and sees you have some meat in your hand, and then like steps back. He like rumbles something at the boy, and he like comes and stands by his side. And then they both like look at you expectantly. I think that Thorin, you would have heard that bark also, that like noise. It would have carried for sure.
Yeah. Thorin, hearing that, looks around and does a quick head count to see who might be.
Yeah, so you would have all spread out to go and get firewood and stuff. So you'd all be within shouting distance, which is like usually a safe sort of distance. But like immediately, like looking around, you wouldn't be able to count everybody because they're all kind of in different places.
Yeah, she'll look first for Skjalmod, and if he seems safe, then she'll move towards the source of the noise. Slowly, cautiously.
If you're trying to be quiet, can you give me a stealth? If you're wearing armor, it'll be with disadvantage.
That's not going to go well. That is not my strong suit. Disadvantage killed me. 9.
Okay. So as you're standing there, Naki, you can hear this like of like dry leaves and things being crushed, and the sort of shunk shunk of chain, and you can see Thorin like moving her way towards you. The other two hear it long before you do, and like look, one of them, the boy, looks over his shoulder. The big man like continues looking at you the whole time, and the boy says something. And the man like looks nervous, being caught between you and whatever is approaching. Not nervous, like aware. And he'll like step to one side and like grab the boy by the hair and like bring him so that they can face you and whatever is approaching. And Thorin, you'll see this sight where like Naki is standing there. There's like this chopped wood at his feet, and he's got this like piece of meat in one hand, and the two men that I've described.
Coming upon such a scene, she freezes, uncertain, and looks to Naki. Naki?
Naki holds a hand up to you, and then holds a hand to these two feral men, and he's putting the meat in his mouth. He'll reach in with his free hand and pull out. He's got a small pouch of herbs that he carries from the fens, perfect for all the scrapes and injuries you can pick up from the thorns and things that grow there. And he'll take this pouch out, and just like the meat, he'll throw it to them, thinking they want an exchange of sorts.
Yeah, the man will like look, just briefly follow the flight of the thing, and then keep his eyes locked between you and Thorin. He'll like look between you pretty much constantly. The boy will like bend down and pick it up, and he'll like open it and like smell it, and then he'll like hold it in front of the man who will smell it, and he'll say something to the boy, because the boy looks like he's going to put his hand in and eat it, and he'll like say something quickly like a bark, and the boy will like nod and tie it back up again and put it into his pouch. And the man is like nervous, obviously looking between you two, but it seems like the transaction is complete. And he just like has this like low sort of growl. He doesn't even seem to be doing on purpose. It's just like this like. And then he'll like the boy will take a step back and he will as well, and he'll say, "Raku." And he'll like point in the direction of the mountain, and he'll point to you, and he'll like do this sort of like charade like gesture of like walking.
Yeah, and Noki's trying to interpret this as best he can. It follows the point in the gesture, and he nods.
Yeah, the man nods, and like takes the pouch and like holds it, and sort of like gestures it at you, and then nods, and then he like does this sort of like, and the boy will like slink away, and when he is gone, the man will like take some cautious steps backward and like move away into the woods if you let him.
Yeah, as soon as he starts to make those steps backwards, I would as well, until I'm standing next to Thorn. And I'll say, just keep moving.
Thorin would, in most cases, follow an enemy to see where they go. But there's something in Noki's voice that tells her she should listen. And she'll walk along with him, slowly backing up, watching to see any sign of the man or boy.
It's like they walk behind a tree and then are gone. Like it doesn't even make any sense. Just like even when they're walking, when you can see them, their footsteps make no sound, and then they're gone. It seems.
Ulf can't be reasoned with. Can they?
That seems pretty reasonable for me. I'll take it.
You're not eating that, are you?
Oh, did you want some? I think I've lost my appetite.
You don't know where that's been.
Truth be told, I don't know what it is.
More reason not to eat it. You may be an elderman now, but you're not invincible. And there's the smallest smile, an invitation to friendship.
I've got as much firewood as I'm prepared to gather. I think we should go back to camp.
You can do so. Make your way back where you all kind of gather. And Rograr would tell you he wouldn't usually camp here. He would just like move on through here and like camp on the side of the mountain. He's not worried about the dead rising, but he is worried about like wolves and things. Though he's never seen an ulf, and if you tell him, he'll be like equally afraid and like annoyed that he didn't see one.
I would just tell him, I would chastise him. You said the elves didn't come up this far.
They don't. I've never seen one. I've been up this mountain more than once a year, every year since I was a boy.
Well, lucky me then. My first time setting foot on this mountain, and I see two.
Maybe they don't like you. I've never seen one.
Everybody likes me.
And he's obviously like annoyed or like confused as to why they've never like stopped him or like dealt with him. He doesn't understand why, although you can maybe guess that it's clear where he's going and they don't have a problem with that. But he'll kind of like moan about it for a bit of the walk. Being like, I never get to see anything around here. All I ever do is go to the mountain and never see a dragon. I never see a wolf. Nothing. But you can continue through to the other side of this like saddle between the two mountains up until you exit the tree line again, and you're on the Corpse Hill, as it's called. There's like this winding path that goes, and occasionally there's like a stairway carved in. So if you don't want to walk all the way around the mountain, you can like go straight up. And you pass like here on the lower slopes, very humble little tombs. And you can see like most of them are just like a rectangle, like a door-sized rectangle, or thinner even, that have been carved into the mountain and like filled with stones. And then at the side, there's like a tiny little, not even a plaque, like carved into the mountain itself. It'll say like somebody's name, something like that. Very, very simple. And that's like 90% of the ones that you see as you like move along past all these tombs. And there's just so many of them. As you like look up the mountain, you can see that they're like packed. And so there's barely like a hand width between each one. And there are so many of them on this mountain. You know that like a lot of people in Iskloft bury their dead in barrows and things like that. The burning of the longship is like a thing that's really just for the extremely wealthy, people who can afford to burn a ship, which is very few people. And so most people bury their dead in mounds, and there's usually like sacred lands that are shared by like several jarldoms where people will bury their dead. And this obviously is like an extreme version of that. All the stone on the mountain is white, sort of almost like marbly, as you like make your way up. And like you cut through some staircases and things like that. You'll travel for like well over 2 hours past these like tombs and upwards until Rograr will like bring you to a certain one, and it's bigger. It's like a door that you could walk through, like a double door basically. And there's like at the top sort of like a carving, this like carving of a face, and it you can read that this is Godric Einarsson, that he's placed here. There's also like chimes that have been left to like make noise in the wind here, and also like in front of each pillar of the door there's like a brazier, but both are out because nobody's been here to like light the fire. But Rogvar will immediately, like as he gets there, set to like lighting those. This is where they buried him, Lord.
Skjalmod will look gravely like the tomb and its like grisly contents, and kind of respectfully move forward and take some like offerings of like tin, silver, and gold. Oh, he probably wouldn't have any gold, but other like precious metals, and lay them down there, and clutch his amulet of Mjolnir. Well, he thinks, but does not speak any words.
Yeah, Rugvar will like set himself to lighting with like his good quality like flint and like a knife for a long time in the wind and the snow until finally like the fires will rise and he'll like step back like satisfied that he's done the right thing. And he's happy to like stand there for. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, and the grandsire, the one whose blade we seek.
At the very top, Lord. I never go there. I was told not to by my father.
Because of warning, or to remind you of your station and duties?
Well, my duties are to look after all of these tombs, but I was also told that it's cursed up there and that it's not for me to go.
Then you can wait here. You cannot disobey your father.
I'll go with you as far as I can and show you the route.
I'd be thankful for it, Rutger.
And so he'll lead you, and occasionally he'll stop at certain tombs, which are obviously tombs from his jarldom, because he like recognize them. You notice they're cleaner or like better taken care of than the other ones, and he'll like go there and like pull weeds out that have grown from like certain places, and he'll like brush like dirt and snow and stuff off the plaques and things like that, and make sure that everything is as it should be. He even has a little chisel, so like some of the plaques will start to fade. He will like hammer and chisel the name deeper to make sure that it's still visible. Little things like that. If like lots of these places have chimes hanging from them, and if any of the strings are like fraying or broken, he'll like set that back up, or he'll like make sure that they're untangled so that they can blow in the wind. He'll stop like several times to do that as you make your way up. You notice like the further up you go, like the more dramatic the tombs get, and it's obvious like that they're older as well. To the point where like the runes are no longer legible, and not because he hasn't like been maintaining them, but because they're not the runes you use. They're like more intricate and more curved, and less like what you read. And so you can kind of make out bits and pieces here and there, but it's not super clear what they are. He gets to a point where there's like a stair that leads up towards the peak, and he says, "This is as far as I go, Lord. If you follow this stair, you walk right, and then there's another stair that should take you right to the peak."
My thanks. Few as possible of us should trespass amongst these hallowed places. Thorin and Noki, you should just ascend with me, and we can string the rest of the men between here with Rutger and like further down the way. And us three will ascend.
You can do so and walk past. As you kind of come up here, there are like proper mausoleums almost. You can see that there's like pillars outside and that there are carvings, sometimes full statues of people, though they're like so weather worn now that they really just look like mannequins as opposed to statues. And you can like make your way up, and the snow is pretty heavy at this stage to the very, very top of this peak. And like you can look around and see the breathtaking view as you like look at the other mountains around you and the valleys that like are visible all around, and waterfalls and forests and things as you like look from up on top of this height. Maybe you've never been on a mountain this high before, and there is a sort of dizziness and sickness that you feel when you've been climbing, particularly today because you've come up so quickly. But also you see at the top of this peak that there is a mausoleum up here made in white stone that like sits basically on like, it looks like the top has been sort of like leveled, and that there is like a mausoleum there. Like a little house. It's got pillars all around the outside and a roof that's sort of like a dome. and underneath that, there's like a small building. You see that there are these two black stone doors, and that like the snow is pretty deep here, but like the door is like slightly ajar, like it's been opened. But you can see that snow has like built up and stuff and like blown in there, so it looks like it's been open a long time.
I'll step forward close enough to like bring my hand up just beyond touching the door. Is there any like weeds or like growing or like detritus like stuck in where this door is ajar? Does it look like it's been ajar for like some time?
Yeah, it looks like it's been ajar for hundreds of years, maybe. And it looks like there's just snow and stuff. It's like too cold up here for like things to grow, it seems. So there's nothing like stopping it. Just the snow. If you like dug that to the side, you'd be able to open the door.
Then I'll do so. Set aside the snowdrift and like push through the door.
As you're like walking, Thorin, you'll like step on something and you like look down and you can like dig in the snow a little bit and see that there's a bone there, like a human bone. And like digging, you'll find a body there, just left out.
Outside the entrance?
Yeah.
Jarl. And she's kind of gone backwards. She'd been on hands and knees to push aside some of the dirt and the snow. There's snow up here, you said, yes?
Yeah.
And she's almost scrambled a little ways back. It unnerves her to be disturbing bones this old. Look, Jarl.
Scrambling around in the dirt and stuff and the snow, you would find more, like another body that's like been left there, not too far from this one. And like if you like searched around, you would find that there are 6 of them up here, out just like in front of this mausoleum. Now just skeletons, really, and like maybe a piece of like tattered metal here and there.
We should collect these bodies and inter them once more in this mausoleum and see that the door to this dead place is shut when we leave it.
Do they seem, Lloyd, like they're in any sort of a pattern? Or does it seem kind of haphazard?
No, it seems definitely haphazard. Like they're all over the place.
Is it wise to disturb the dead, even to put them back?
He'll frown.
It's probably religiously correct to like take bones or whatever and put them into a tomb. If you're putting them somewhere like with respect or whatever, it's probably better to do that than leave them out.
Yeah, I imagine they're like on the path to this mausoleum. It's the equivalent of like corpses on the path to this mausoleum.
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel in my gut like it'd be better to do something respectful with the remains than to leave them in like a uncommonly trod place.
Yeah.
But like the wolf would know. I should have asked for him to come. I don't know, Thorin. If you think we should leave the bodies, then I'll heed your advice and we'll just like go in and leave them as they lay here, undisturbed.
Nay, Jarl. You know more of these things than I do.
I think Godrickson would, so I will. And as like respectfully as you can, like pick up a stranger's corpse, I'll do so.
Yep, you can like gather the bones and bring them into the mausoleum. You have to do more than one trip, but the first time that you walk in there, you can see that there is like pretty significant snow and stuff, and there's like even moss on the walls because it's a little bit warmer in here. And there obviously was once a sarcophagus or something like that at the center of this mausoleum, but it's like long opened, and the body inside is still there, a skeleton. You can see in like the corner of the room is a body, like a skeleton, and it's got a sword, as if it's like impaled itself with it, and like then sat down by the wall. you like have a look over there, you can see that like scrawled or like carved into the wall next to this skeleton. There's a message. It's like a little hard to read because it's like I say, some of the runes are a little older, but you can like piece it together. Weapons to lay waste and bring wanton death we sought, but the blade brings a baleful thirst to bear. A need to slaughter never seen. What have I wrought here on this restless peak? Nothing short of kinslaying and murder.
I'll gently place down the stranger's bones in like this corner of the room, and like reverentially take a few steps forward and bow slightly before like the corpses beyond, like not taking my eyes off the message on the wall.
Yeah, you can see that like the sword itself, like untouched by rust or like damage. It's fine, like a longsword. It's golden or golden gilt sort of crossguard and pommel. Yeah, it looks as sharp as the day it was made by the looks of things. You can piece together as well by looking like and like by things that lay near this corpse that this would have been Godric's son's ancestor.
Yeah, maybe describe like some of the things I might expect to see on him, like the armor he was buried in, or a band of rulership.
And the wind howls.
Yeah, I'll look to Thorin and Noki to see if they have any thoughts on it. I'll point it out to them if they haven't noticed it.
Thorin just looks at you and shakes her head. Runes are nothing that makes sense to me, Jarl.
I think this thirsting blade is cursed.
Then I shall bear it. But
I think none of us.
If you have sworn an oath, Jarl, I would not see you break it. And I would let the curse be upon my head.
And then to Godric, who's only two kin left to him.
Perhaps it does not curse its descendants.
You can see that there's also like lying nearby this like beautiful scabbard of wood and steel with these like insane, just gorgeous like knotwork patterns worked into it of like a level of intricacy that you've like never seen before. And yeah, there'd be other things near the corpse, like a ring on a finger and like shredded armor and things like that.
I think we should like set the corpses to right and restore the grandsire to like a proper place of rest, and see that sword sheathed for good and all, and bar the door beyond with like the snowdrift. Will not make my war friend glad to make a gift of that to him.
Noki, you lived in the fens. What do you know of curses?
Other than the whole fence is a curse in on of itself. Nothing quite like this, though.
And we should speak of no one, speak of this to no one except Godrickson. And as he says that, he's kind of looking for, I guess, approval or confirmation of that course of action.
No, it wouldn't be wise to tell anyone else. If rumour of it was to spread.
That's what I fear. If this Rannick's kinless, then it's no cursed blade to him. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I've never put much stock in curses. Valleyland was too far away from me.
You can like see like other from the other skeletons and like things attached to them as well. But these would have been like Godric's men, notably like one of them his brother. You piece that together easily with like the rings and things that they bear. And that this like Odd Godrickson, which was his name, the ancestor. As you like search or like look, I guess, you'll see also that he has near his corpse this like huge scale, like a fish scale, but enormous, by him. And you remember that Godrickson had said that he had come up this way to get the feather of a great eagle, the scale of a dragon, so he could marry a giantess. And you can like see that maybe he got one of those things.
The other might still be out there. I kind of felt like the ability to take the blade without fear of like robbing the dead, but anything else I think is sacrosanct, like should not be touched except to like make right the corpses and like the gear. I don't want to like take anything. I don't ever actually even want to take the blade. I want to like pull it from the corpse and stick it into its scabbard and like secret it in this place, not like have it on him, like so that a grave robber would like see it, like have it in the alcove or like a corner.
If you moved to touch the blade, Thorin would put a hand upon your shoulder. Not to me. I will sheath it.
No. I swore the oath. I'll do it. I'll bear it.
Jarl, please.
No. If it curses me, I charge you strike me down and rule Skjalvik in my stead till Harkon should come of age. And then I'll grab the blade.
Yeah, it's unbelievably well weighted. As you like grab it, you can like feel this like sense of power from it. You know, you can see this moment where like you like pushed open the door and like with your crew of like adventurers, you managed to like open up the sarcophagus and find inside this glory blade. And as you like pulled it out of the scabbard, this like hate came over you, and you like struck down your men all around. As they like raised their hands and like ran outside, you ran after them. And only like after that thirst had been slated did you realize you like dragged yourself back inside. carved the poem and ended it in the hopes that no one else would go through this.
Jarl. Sheath the blade, Jarl.
He sheaths it and like crawls over, heaving to like secret in an alcove, like sweating, tears dropping from his eyes onto the flagstones of the mausoleum. I killed them.
Yeah, you also like see, like as you're bringing it across to the scabbard, there's like a resistance, or you can feel it, like this resistance to go back in. And like as you do so, you can see this like a stop motion of like hundreds of heads being severed by different people wielding this blade as like the sun rises and falls behind, just of death that follows this blade. But eventually you're able to like roll a wisdom save to put it back in the scabbard.
Shall I roll?
Please.
Yeah, I fail miserably. 9.
So you're like holding the scabbard and the sword, and you're like trying to get it into it, and you can feel like your muscles tensing, like you're pushing, but there's also some like resistance that's like stopping you. And you realize it's you that's doing it. There's like this need that it shouldn't go back. This thing is too perfect. It's too dangerous. This thing is like, with this sword you could conquer, and it's almost impossible to put it back in the scabbard.
Skjalmod. Sheath the blade.
It is too perfect to be sheathed, but in flesh. With this, we could Flokison, Ranixon.
You have like a vision of yourself standing atop a hill with like the sword planted into the ground, in both hands on the handle. You like look out over like burning holds all around you, and the satisfaction of conquest.
I guess his face is twisted, half like marvel at the blade's perfection, and half like, I guess, simpering or like weeping at his like failing mind.
Thorin will walk over and face Skjalmod. Skjalmod Harson. Sheath the blade. And she'll put her hands where his are and try and help him, like physically encouraging and forcing him to sheath it if she can.
Yeah, you can make contested athletic checks.
12.
Okay, I was going to say, watch him roll a natural 20. That would be my luck. Although I did not roll well. Oh, but I have a really good bonus to athletics. 13.
Oof. Okay. So you like start to push, and the sword is like going into the scabbard, and she's trying to take it from you. Like, this is not right. This shouldn't be happening. Why is she's your servant? Is like what you like start to feel. But with like the force or whatever of Thorin's strength, you're able to like at least put the tip of it into the scabbard and like push it most of the way in. I'll need another wisdom save from you, please, Skjalmod.
22.
So the illusion or the curse maybe is partially broken for a moment, and you like are clear, and like you recoil from the things that you had seen and that like seemed so sweet to you, now seem so sour. And with the two of you, you're able to like finally like sheath the blade and like put it down away from you. And like I can imagine both of you like step away from it with your hands up. But for a moment, it was so real. All of those things could have been yours.
Yeah, I've imagined I've woken from a pleasant dream to like a grim reality before. This is like it, but worse. And it probably takes a while before I can relay the many, like the myriad visions of like slaughter and suicide, until I relay that to Noki and Thorin, not taking my eyes off the blade, still tear-filled as I say it. Godric should not wield this. Einar should not wield this. No one should.
Then we will leave it here.
What would you tell him?
The truth.
Let's hope he is reasonable about it.
That is what I hope.
Come. We will set the tomb to rights, and then we will leave it behind.
Skjalmod nods as if he hadn't really heard the words, but then nods again when he processes them and gets to the work of like entombing those other bodies and setting things to right in here.
Yeah, it's grim work, like placing the bones in the correct order and like trying to figure out whose bones are whose. All in all, it looks like there's 8 that were here. The brother of Odd himself, and then the 6 men that came with them. And you can like lay them to rest, as well as close sarcophagus on whoever actually dwelt here, who was meant to be buried here, however many hundreds or thousands of years ago with the blade. You can set that to right. It's maybe an hour's work before you can like make your way to the outside of the sarcophagus of the mausoleum and like get the fresh air. Although it's like bracing and cold, it feels sweet to be away from those terrible things that you saw in there. And with your combined strength, you're able to like close that door, so it's no longer ajar, and like pile up snow next to it if that's your intent, and like create a sort of snowdrift so that it'll be difficult for others to get there.
Yeah, I wonder like if I'll even go as far as to like try and drive some throwing spears into the door frame, like where it would presumably swing out or in, and then break them off, like snap them off. So it's like not, I guess it's not as good as sealed, like rocking it in, but definitely like an obstacle. So they can't just kind of blow open with wind, for instance, or just like things falling on it.
Yep, you can definitely do so. Like spend a little bit of time using whatever resources you have to hand to like try and block up this door properly and make sure that it won't open again.
Yep. Yeah, I'll break the throwing spears in half, all three of them, to make like 6 little wedges to drive in, and use my like helm in lieu of a rock. If I can find a rock to like drive them in to be flush with the wall.
Yeah, so after like another half an hour, maybe a little bit more of work, you like take a deep breath. The labor finally behind you, and you think that this place is pretty solidly sealed. You can see, like, as you like look behind you on the plateau, like the areas where you dug out the bodies and whatever. It's obviously that they were running away, but never got far enough. You can like look around at all the mountains around you. Yeah.
I think in like grim silence after that, Skjalmod will like push down the mountain, seeking out the rest of our companions, wanting to leave this place and the bad memories behind.
Rugvar will like just like really intensely like hassle you about like what happened, and the sword wasn't there, and what did you see? And I've never been up there, and like he's so curious. But like knowing Rugvar by now, you know it's like not some sort of like spy curiosity, but just like he's genuinely interested in what's up there. And he'll just like ask you until maybe there's a stern look or a stern word, and he'll stop.
Yeah, I'll just hope that like my dour expression and like angry face, like when he questions me over much, is enough to make him think that like I was unsuccessful, and that's why I'm in such a sour mood, so he won't press me.
Yeah, he'll piece it together, he thinks, and stop asking. So you begin to make your way back down the mountain, past all of the tombs, back down through that wood, and back towards the actual forest at the bottom of the mountain. It's a lot easier going down, and you make excellent time compared to the journey up. And as you like enter into that forest at the bottom of the mountains, the foothills that you had passed through, where the stone of Thrym was, you'll be greeted by the bandits again, by Azlak, and by 10 others who'll be standing around, sort of like actually like sitting. They've made a camp like from the obvious path that you would take, so that they can like greet you here, and they'll like look up as you approach. They'll be ready. There's one big man with a tattoo that covers half of his face, who obviously seems to be the leader. He's a bit better equipped than the rest, and he'll be like sitting sort of casually. He'll be like eating something as you approach, and he'll look up, but you get the immediate impression that there are others like nearby, like watching from hiding. You're the man Skjalmod.
I am, and you're Azlak's captain?
Captain, I like that. Yes, that's me, Torvald.
Well met, Torvald. Can we share your camp?
Of course. Come sit and eat.
I'll bring out my own food from the saddlebags to share amongst them, and try and make eye contact with as many of the men I can as I like share our food amongst theirs. Imagine this very uneven trade, our 8 to their 11, but we'll do it nonetheless. I'm trying to avoid the eyes of Thor and any of the others who came with me from Conan Castellan, who would probably be rankled at this.
Yeah. He says, did you give the offerings to whoever you were going to visit up there?
I did. Precious metals for Einar's, for Godric's son to pay the Valkyries in Valhall. And sacred flames were lit, and offerings too, to Thrym, the old giant of the mountain. This one here guided us well. He'll motion out to Rugvar.
Ah, good old Rugvar. He'll give him this look. That's kind of affectionate. Obviously, they bully this man and like steal from him every time he comes up here, but they don't seem to like dislike him. But it's that kind of like affection that a bully has for a victim. And he'll like smile, but Rogvar won't return the smile. And he'll say, "So my man Aslak tells me that you've got an offer for us. Now I don't believe it for a second that you, Jarl, and I've heard that you are a Jarl from the king, that you would offer work to my people, my boys."
Not as mercenaries, no. As people of the Fens, I'd offer you land and law, and fair work and pay under my domain.
He like reaches up to his collar and like pulls it down. You can see he has this like huge brand on like where his collarbone is. He like points to that, and then he like rolls up his right sleeve and shows you another brand. And then like on the palm of his left hand, he has a third. You would offer me.
What's the worst crime of the three?
I suppose it depends on your point of view.
Lawful. Like the highest crime against the crown, like treason, for instance. Is there like a treason brand? Kinslaying?
You would nod to kinslaying.
I've seen worse and heard worse, I'll say, eyeing his mark amongst my own men who I've fought and bled alongside in battle, who I've broken bread and rings with.
He like looks back at the men like he can't believe what he's hearing. Like he didn't believe it for a second, but he was curious to see what Aslak had talked about. And so you're offering second chances.
To those who'll want it, not for all, of course, only for those who'll willing to swear oaths, even if they deem themselves to be oath breakers or marked as such.
We make a decent living out here. It's not so bad. We've got freedom. We can do what we want.
Fair enough. I'll pressure no man. I ask because I have need, and I mistook that you had want.
He like looks around at the men. You can see some of them are like definitely interested in it, and there's obviously a lot more than these. But he is like giving off, and you're well wise to this, like giving off the impression that like he doesn't care about this, or that he's not interested, or that everything is fine here, and that they're rich and everything is great. He'll like reach towards the fire and like pull some stringy meat and like pop it into his mouth and chew as he thinks.
There's food aplenty in the Fens. The food comes to you, he'll think, saying Stein's own words before his death. And say where a man and woman might not feel the hard times as harshly, and so not have to resort to criminal measures.
It's a hard thing for most of us who've never had a calling, never had a craft. Our craft is death. We deal it. It's
I expect to come into a great deal of war soon, and so death dealers we prize most amongst my folk. And I have good steel and mail, bright weapons for warriors who will bear them, if they'll swear.
War, huh? Wouldn't be the first time, I suppose. It's been a long time since I stood in a shield wall, Skjalmod. And there's something to it, if you think about it. Compared to this, bullying Rogvar as he passes by. There's good money in it?
No. There's fair money. And honest and secure places to spend it.
Yeah, but land, huh?
But land and food. But law. Law and oaths is the cost.
And women?
No. women you'll have to attract for yourself. It might be easier for some than others, I'll say, like chancing a jape.
Yeah, that gets a laugh out of
See
them.
how that trickles through a few of them. Good.
One of them was like, Osric, you'll never get anything, blah, blah, blah. And they're like playing and like pushing each other and whatnot. But then Torvald gives them a look and does like a tss, and they stop. I like to think about it, Skjalmod. It's a generous offer, not one I expected. You get to be my age, you've lived this life for as long as I have, and you have 3 fucking brands on you. You think you're pretty well sorted with your life. This is it for the rest of it, whatever remains of it, whatever short bits remain of it. But when I get up now in the morning, I creak. I have to piss 3 times a night. And honestly, some land in a house wouldn't go amiss. But I have to think about it. I have to take care of my boys here. They're my family. And I have to see what they think.
Of course. But we'll make camp soon and be off at dawn. Any who wish to take me up on my offer can travel with us. Those who want to remain to Bully Rogvar, it is your will. I'll not begrudge you that. Agreed, I have paid your man handsomely for passage up, and presume the cost is double the passage down.
That's why you're a Jarl, Skjalmod. You understand exactly how these things work.
Yeah, I'll give him the other half of that broken like hack silver that I gave his man, and like enough to double it.
Mm-hmm.
And hand it over.
Feel Thorin bristling.
All right. Well, we'll discuss it. It might be the case that we have to take longer than you're camping to discuss it, but at the very least, when we've made a decision, we'll send somebody to go talk to you. I'm sure at least one of the boys will want to go with you.
Unfortunately, it might not be wise for you to travel through Godricson's land, except under my banner. So this offer is limited, so to speak.
He thinks about that and like scratches his beard and nods like that makes sense. Then I guess we better get talking quick, eh?
Mm-hmm. Good evening, I'll say, and make my way back to the incinerating glower of Thorin.
Yes, you can make camp not too far from them. And I imagine set quite a few watches just in case. But I think that's where we'll end the session. We'll decide and see what happens next time regarding Torvald and his bandits and the return to Haedborg with no kin-killing blade in tow. Thanks for watching if you did. See you next time.